So this is our haystacks sketch, and I'm using the image by Monet that had the snow on those haystacks. I know that a couple of you were looking at the image that just had the one haystack, but it's basically the same concept. So I'm only going to do one sketch, and I'm going to do the one that has both, just so that you can kind of get a feel for how that would work. And once again, I've got my page turned in landscape orientation, and I'm going to start with the line that is furthest back, because if you look closely, there's one line kind of up high that's kind of just curved like a snow mound or a mountain further off, and then there's a line that goes sort of lower down and goes straighter across. And then both of the haystacks are in front of that. One haystack is small and one is almost twice as big. So what I'm going to do is just kind of mark where they go first. And I'm just going to do like a little triangle at first, because they are sort of triangular in shape. So that might be the first one. And then the second one, the bottom of the triangular part sort of lines up with this. And then the top of it actually goes beyond, above that other line. So that might be sort of the beginning step. I don't know if you can see both those triangles. Hopefully you can. But then the next thing I would do would be to add more precise line work there. And yes, this is a relatively simple drawing, but that does not mean that there's no detail. That does not mean that it is necessarily easy, which is why it is still an option. Remember that it's okay to erase and to redraw, especially when you are still in the early stages like you are right now. And then you also want to kind of indicate where the snow is the most. Because remember, when you were working with the paint that we're going to be using, if you see white, you want to start by leaving the paper white. And I'm also going to erase my sort of landscape lines that are behind it. And then there's a shadow here. So I'm going to draw that shadow a little bit, because it's kind of a bluish color compared to the more gray and white of the rest of the snow. So I want to make sure I have that drawn. And then I'm going to start on my larger haystack. Once again, paying a lot of attention to the exact outline and the irregularities there. Because especially with something that is on the simpler side, getting it as accurate as you can is going to be very important. So this one comes just a little further down than this one. So if you were to go across here, you'd see that it's just a smidge lower on the bottom. Not much. And then there's a shadow here that's at a slightly different angle, because this shadow is pretty much straight across. This shadow is a little more tilted down, and it goes off the page. So you would want to make sure you get those details in. Once again, erase the lines that go behind our haystacks. And erase your initial sketching lines, because as you refine your edges and make them more accurate, you want to make sure that your old lines are not there to continue to distract you. And then once again, just as I did on the smaller one, I'm going to look for where most of the snow is. And I'm just going to kind of draw that in there. Just so that, once again, I know where I'm going to be putting most of my white. Because then the rest of it has some browns and some yellows and some purples and some blues and some grays and different things like that in there. So we do want to make sure that we indicate where not to put any paint, especially in those early stages of the painting steps. So then the next thing I would do before I am ready to paint on this one would be, just like I've done with all of my other ones, is to just do another glance over, make sure that I've got things as detailed and accurate as I can, add in sort of where I have like hay being spilled that I didn't have before. Because once again, you want to make sure that these are as accurate as you can get them. And there are some trees and some other things within this mound, but because they are so light, I would recommend primarily looking for those when you are on the painting steps and then putting them in. So now this one might be ready for painting. It would, again, of course, depend on how accurately you get your initial stages. So each time you add a little bit more to your drawing, it should get more and more accurate. And keep in mind, on this particular painting especially, there's a lot of color within what is basically seen as white. You've got purple, you've got green, you've got blue, you've got yellow. And obviously you've got quite a bit of white, and you've got some gray in there as well. So that's one of the main things that's going to be very important about Impressionism especially, is looking for all of those sort of hidden colors that are in there.